welcome to Not All Fire. I'm Jude Evans.
And I'm Joe Hart.
And welcome to the viewers who are watching this on YouTube and to the listeners who are not watching it through YouTube, like I do when I drive around. So,
yeah. Hey, I was driving last night, Jude. Listened to last week's episode of this show on Spotify.
Oh, nice. I listened to the last 4 episodes when I was driving last week, because last week I did a grand total of 1,000 miles. And I think I beat my record of 20 counties as well. So that's quite exciting. Suddenly realised my phone started pinging me, telling me that I should be recording this pod, but you've silenced that. I'm hoping my voice lasts for the 45 minutes of this record, because I've come down with a lurgy and I'm actually literally about to go home from the clients where I'm working from. I've rearranged everything for the next couple of days just so I can go home, because I feel like death. So thank you to the people who's given me Essex flu.
Yeah, not ideal. This is a bit of an emergency podcast, because you texted me like 5 minutes ago and said, I can record now or never. I was like, oh my God, okay, cool. Well, let's dive in. Well, so we've done no prep today. Normally we small talk a little bit beforehand, and we've literally not even caught up. So, so what's the story? You just got the Black Death.
I've got the Black Death. Well, we were going to record yesterday, and you got stuck in traffic, I think.
Oh, M62. Enough said.
Well, M62. I mean, amusingly down in Essex, the M25 was closed between the A12 and the M11 for most of yesterday afternoon. The lorry jackknifed and went through electrics, and total carnage for the whole of the southeast of the area here. So anyway, welcome to the traffic news, as we always do. So I've got some stuff prepared, because there's quite a lot of stuff actually. There's quite a lot of stuff out and about. We've got a couple of publicly available specifications that have popped up for review. PAS 9970 parts 1 and 2, which is fire safety and construction organisations and site fire safety, and then also the design and installation of temporary fire alarm systems. So it's a public consultation as ever. So if you have any views on that type of fire safety systems or work, certainly I'm going to have a look to review it, because I do a lot of construction site fire safety risk assessments and advise on different types of fire alarms to have for those kind of situations. So that's certainly something. And what do we always say? Don't complain about it afterwards if you don't have input in it.
True enough.
Stage. So
what was the second one you said? Temporary fire alarms, was it?
Yeah, so it's both on fire safety construction. So it's both fire safety construction sites. One is general organisation and site fire safety. So that's your fire plans, where fuel storage is located, traffic routes in, traffic management, assembly points, all of the normal kind of stuff that we would manage for how we're going to do the fire safety. And then the second part is design and installation of temporary fire alarm systems. So, for example, I'm working on a project where they're building timber frame houses, and we've got temporary fire alarms outside. They're pairs of houses, so every pair of house has a fire point with a generic sounder that is battery operated, that connects to other generic sounders all around, and then goes to a central point both at the site office and at the gatehouse. And on that stand there's a couple of fire extinguishers. I think we put a first aid kit there as well, and so there's information for everybody. So it's very much, that's one operation. But then obviously, if you think about, if you're building a massive block of flats or a big tower block or something like that, about how you manage what type of fire alarm system you're going to put into the building, how they're going to be maintained, how they're going to be tested. Because the problems with, a lot of the time they're hardwired now, because mains powered, because the batteries are so heavy usage that you're replacing batteries all the time.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Because if you haven't got them close enough, then they're constantly trying to send signals to each other to communicate, which makes it quite hard. So
I'll take a look for that, because I deal a lot with temporary alarm systems in construction sites, in heritage buildings specifically, where they come in and they're, as exactly as you say, the fire points, the temporary detectors. So yeah, actually, I'll want to look at that one myself. As you say, if you've got some skills and knowledge, you should contribute to it. All right, I'll keep an eye out.
Let's talk about the massive fire we've had in Devon at the school, at the SEN school.
Yeah.
I was looking at photographs of it. So this is Oakhampton, and I was doing some investigation, as we like to do. You Google to find out what's going on. And interestingly, they'd had a they'd had a notice from the government, which is publicly available. You can search on the government website to see it. They'd been sent a notice by the government in, I want to say, is it September 25 or November 25, that said, you're not managing your pupils properly, you're not managing you're kind of not managing life within the school as well as it could be.
Oh, wow.
Which for me is really interesting, because we've just had half term. So therefore, there's always the potential that a fire in the school is going to start through contractors. But because of the type of school it is as well, there's always that potential for deliberate fires.
Sure. Yeah. And when was it? Was it during the half-term week, or was it
I want to
once
say it
we'd
was
gone
Sunday.
back?
I want to say
it was a weekend.
Sunday.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
So, and it's a 2-story block with a roof which may have had rooms in the roof. Looking at the sort of detail from before it was basically destroyed, but it took the roof off. I mean, there was, if you look at the videos and images from various news websites, you can see flames coming through the roof. You can see an awful lot of smoke. You can see the fire was very much in the roof and then onto the first floor. Looking at the photographs of the aftermath, I mean, there's no roof. There's no. I was like, oh, compartmentation, or I mean, it was only built 4 years ago, 2022, I think it was built. 2023, they moved in. So I mean, like, it's a really new school. So this is really, really unusual, I think I would be hastened to say.
That was my next question. Do we know how old it was? Because I only saw the news article and I saw the picture of the roof and the water going on from above, but I didn't do any background research. If I had more time, I would. But 4 years old as a school, purpose built as well, presumably.
Purpose built as special educational needs. And do you know what? In fact, it's a really big business. We're working on a project at the moment with a school that's about to be constructed for. There's a SEND or an SEN school. I'm not quite sure what I've always called them SEN, and I thought SEND, SEND, was sort of like an old version of it. So I'm not 100% sure what the correct terminology is now. But certainly it's big business. It's really, really good business. We're putting into place a lot of schools that are suitable for people of all different learning abilities, whereas like in the late 1900s, if you like to say the 90s were, you just all went to school, and if you didn't get on, you just didn't get on. You were just put in a corner, and you just did we didn't have the kind of respect within education as we do now. So such a loss, though. Such a loss.
I mean, it looks like it, and we talk often, don't we, about the consequences of fire. We've obviously got life and property, but then you've got operational continuity as well,
which is continuity is massive.
What do we do with all the kids in that school that would be going to class today? Do we find a new school for them for 2 years while we rebuild? Like, the knock-on effect is enormous. So big challenge for those guys. I'm interested to see, because as you say, that looked like the whole roof had gone. So suggestion that cavity barriers or fire stopping in the roof itself had failed, or was it PVs, or a complete speculation. But why is it that the whole roof would be alight? And also, what was the damage beneath? Did that then spread further down? I don't know. It's see whether it's partial or total loss.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was PV on the roof when I was looking at it. My brain is a little bit cross and woolly at the moment because of the cold. But I don't. It was a significant fire, and it was for a building that was 3 or 4 years old, that should have been built to withstand this type of incident. Like you say, we're speculating at the moment because they're still investigating the fire. Fire investigators were on site, so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to find out how and why. It's always interesting to find out how and why, isn't it? So
quite rare, I believe, to get a school fire of that scale. School fires are so common, but for it to be a complete loss of potentially an entire block, not very common to get one of that scale. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on it.
I'd say every 3 or 4 years we have a total loss.
Yeah.
And that's just for me looking and being involved in school fire safety and looking at various bits and pieces. By my memory, I'd say every 3 or 4 years we have a total loss. But you're right, we have I mean, hundreds of school fires. Of school fires. But if they happen during the day, it doesn't matter as much because staff are there, there's people around, either people can deal with it with portable fire extinguishers or sprinklers activate in the schools that have sprinklers. Again, there's that argument. We've talked about BB100, which is the design guide for schools, along the lines of ADB and the HGM guides for hospitals. And they took out the requirement for sprinklers in new build schools in the last edition, whereas previous it was in. And there's an awful lot of people that are like, I'm not going to, no, it's a cost. I'm not putting sprinklers in my school. It's a cost. But then, of course, you have something like this happen. I mean, it may be that I've got a meeting actually on Friday with the people who I'll be working with. And I'm going to very pointedly go, look at this school. Look at these photographs. How do you justify not putting sprinklers into your building when we've had something like this?
Yeah, well, if you say it's 4 years old, I've been working with BB100 for long enough, certainly in the last 4 years. It's very difficult to do a new build school without sprinklers because it's got that sprinkler risk assessment thing, hasn't it? And unless your school is next to a fire station, meets every single criteria going, the answer generally is put sprinklers in. So hard to justify.
I know, but value engineering.
Yeah, I mean, I've literally come out of a meeting this morning about value engineering with a client. Thanks for your strategy. Here's some comments. I go, okay, yeah, we'll take the comments. Every single comment is, do we need that? Can we get rid of it? So yeah, that's why I'm a bit grumpy.
Why do we need to fire rate that? Why does that need to be fire rated? Why do we need to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Save money this way. Yeah. Here's an interesting one. Talking of sprinklers, I went and did a fire risk assessment at a sheltered care home, so independent living, sheltered housing property. So independent living, as in there's a member of staff on site 2 or 3 times a week. It's 4 stories. It's mainly constructed, built in the 60s, so it's basically built out of. We've talked about wallwood before, which is when you get strips of wood that have been soaked in concrete and then compressed into panels, and absolutely they are incredibly non-combustible.
Yeah.
But there were some other issues in this building, so we decided we'd put in some sprinklers. And also they were updating the heating at the same time. So everybody was just like, okay, we'll run the heating and the sprinkler pipes in the same riser cupboard, because that way then we don't have to worry about doing too many holes and we can fire stop everything, and it works really, really nicely. And I went into one of these cupboards, and I understand sprinkler pipes are designed to withstand heat from a fire. So that would be high heat for a short period of time. But these sprinkler pipes in these riser cupboards where there's heating, because it's contained top and bottom, and it's a sealed riser. These pipes were warm, and I was like, "Oh, this is really warm." And I was like, "I wonder how that affects the integrity of the plastic."
Yeah, is it a wet system or a dry or pre-action system or anything?
Wet system.
Which is to the benefit of it, because you've got that latent heat that it can absorb into the water. I've had this, and it was older sprinkler pipes that were metal.
Ooh,
and
not
they
the orange plastic one.
Yeah, exactly. And over time, what had happened was the plumbing, like the solder. I don't really know plumbing very well, I'll confess, but the soldering, the linkage there had failed over time because of long-term exposure, because they'd connected the plumbing for the sprinkler system on the basis that this is going to be it's going to be a wet system, and it turned out it was actually a dry system, so you couldn't rely on that water absorption, the absorption of the heat, and also that the ambient conditions were ambient, and then that had actually gone into an environment that they'd boxed it in, and it had ended up being next to something similar to yours, some heating pipes or whatever, gas pipes, something that was transferring heat, and the soldering had failed, and the whole system had become redundant.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you could have that issue with yours, in actual fact. I don't know, like the plastic may well have a tolerance at which, if you go above in terms of background heat, it's not sustainable. Yeah,
that's an
could have an issue
point. I'll keep an eye on that to make sure, and I will come back to you if it bursts at some point.
Yeah.
What else are we going to talk about? So there were some blocks of flats that had been built in Ealing in London. That Ealing Council are now going to demolish, because they were built by Henry Constructions, and after that collapsed 4 or 5 years ago, they've basically left standing as like stair core, lift shaft core, and so you've got beams and you've got concrete panels, and they're going to demolish them all and start again because it's been so long that they now can't confirm the integrity of the building.
I saw this, and they were left partially constructed, weren't they?
Yes.
When that company collapsed. Yeah. And now they're just tearing them down, start again.
Pretty much. I was like, that's quite an interesting. That's quite an interesting thing to do, really. I mean,
you'd hope that even if something was only half constructed, there's sufficient records and there's sufficient control processes in place that you can come in halfway through and think you don't have to start from scratch. Whether somebody would with insurance and it's someone else's work and what have you, I don't know. Could be an issue.
I suppose it depends on how tall they were and if they were going to be residential and if they were designed to, say, for example, the 2020 standards or the 2019 standards, and now those standards have changed. So you'd have to turn around and go, oh, okay, so we can't build it like that anymore because it's been so long. We've got to reapply for planning permission, and reapplying for planning permission turns around and says, oh no, you can't do that. You have to have 2 stairs. You have to do this. You have to do that.
I get a few of them in my kind of legal professional world about we got planning permission, we need to make a meaningful start on site. That's not defined, so no one knows what that means. And if you don't, you have to reapply for planning permission, which means current regs and standards. So you get people like putting a gnome in their garden and just saying, I've made a start on my extension. Or I've dug a bit of turf, I've dug 6 inches off the top. Does that mean I've got a start and my current planning is still in place? A planning notice will usually say this is time bound. As long as you make a start by X date, you can the planning condition still holds. And there's a car park near me. It's just where I park my car, and they had a planning permission in for a new hut. You know, you can't go buy tickets or whatever, and they had to demolish the previous one. The planning permission was to demolish the previous hut and rebuild a new one. And because they were about to run out, they just went and removed one ceiling tile, roof tile from the top, and they said we've started demolition because look, this is clearly legally local to where I work here. It was a bit of a notable case study because you can't argue that isn't demolition. That is how you start demolishing a building. But is that a meaningful start? Just removing one tile.
Funny. Yeah. How funny. That's quite an interesting. Yeah, that's quite an interesting term. How do you define officially starting? Boots on the ground, I suppose. Yeah.
Because with your example there, by stripping it all the way and starting again, you are inherently bringing in a need to reapply for planning, reapply for building regs, and use current standards. So the height thresholds is interesting there because they might be bringing in a requirement actually to build more onerously than you would have done 3-4 years ago.
It's interesting because there's I drove past it on Monday. There's a building in Basildon that's it was a handling factory or somebody who then later didn't went bust and all of that. Their properties went, but they were going to build some flats and they were going to build some bits and pieces, and that's been sitting there. That's also been sitting there since before COVID. So, and you sit there and you go, it's literally got 2 lift shafts, floor slabs, and beams holding it up, and it's just been sitting there hoarded for years now. I think they've demolished part of it and built a little, which will please all the local people there. But it's funny how you get sort of half built buildings, and they just sit there because nobody then knows what to do with them because the people who either bought the company or bought subsidiaries or bought the stock or the land or whatever might turn around and go, well, we don't want to do that.
Yeah. The other one I think we've done on this show quite recently was people that get planning permission with no intention to build it, but they sell the planning permission to a developer. That happens a huge amount, and that's again something I've been coming across quite recently, where you put someone comes to you, can you write a fire strategy? Yes, okay, here's the scope, REBA 2, 3, 4, REBA 5, all of this, and they go, can you just do the planning application? And I go, yeah, I can, but really you do still need it. They go, yeah, but I'm going to sell the planning application to a developer. The limit of my own scope and project is up to REBA 2 maybe, which is fair. I'm not a property developer, but I do get that as a as a service that people provide. I'm just going to have half a cursory look on my phone because I can see something flashing. The perils of recording during the working day. I can just hear and see things going crazy. We're good. We're safe.
Okay.
Oh.
So tell me about we've done a recap of Born IA.
Oh, your microphone's just gone a bit fuzzy, Jude. It's just caught your jumper or something, I think.
Sorry, I'm trying new tech.
You just went a bit robotic suddenly.
New tech. And also the internet's not really good in this building, sadly. So I'm pairing it with my phone, as ever. So,
yeah.
Is it sounding clear?
Not really. It's a little bit Dalek-y again. Oh no. Is it a Dalek or a Cyberman? No, you do. You sound like a Dalek.
Well,
still a Dalek.
For the next 20 minutes. Oh.
Still a Dalek, unfortunately. I don't know what happened. It was all good for a while, and then it felt like it had caught on something, and it was a little bit kind of wobbly. And
how's that now?
Oh, that's good. You're back.
I've taken my microphone off.
Oh yeah, I do. It felt like it just caught on your jumper or something. It just was a little bit kind of wobbly, but
I'll work it out. We'll work it out eventually.
You're back. We've got you.
Yeah. So, in the last 20 minutes of the show, then, do you want to tell us a bit more about California and the Palisades?
Ooh, yeah, we've still not done that.
We've not covered it, and you've been back for a couple of weeks. So,
well, I'm going back again in a couple of weeks. So if we leave it much longer, I'll be back there again. Yeah. What was I doing in the Palisades that I've not reported back? I was there.
You were looking at flowers, and you were telling us about how you were looking at the different flowers and how the different foliage and how you thought it might dry and how it would become a fire hazard. And you were going to tell us about when you went to the Palisades to see how different it was.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so I was there looking this year. It was 12 months on from the fires last year. I was there on the anniversary of the fires starting, and it was kind of intentional because I was writing a couple of pieces. So I was writing an article for International Firefighter magazine, which is going to go out in a couple of weeks' time, which is interesting.
Have you completed these writings?
Yeah, that's all done, submitted. I got the copy through.
Oh, well done.
Yeah. Well, I'll share on the screen in the video recording of this what it looks like. It looks really cool. They've mapped the article text around one of my photographs, which I was dead chuffed with. So it looks really cool. I'll send you a text of it later as well, so you can see.
Yeah, thank you.
So I was there doing that. So I was up in the Palisades to see how they look today. Obviously, the Pacific Palisades were largely destroyed last year in the fires. I was there during the fire, so I've only ever been there twice. Once when it was on fire, and once now in the aftermath. And I can't wait to go back and see it rebuilt. And that's kind of in progress now. So it is just a construction site now, and it's just the weirdest place to describe. It's so difficult. As I'm talking, we'll put some pictures up, but you just walk down a street and there are just destroyed houses everywhere. It's like a war zone. It really is. The only place I can relate it to, I was struggling to think like how to describe it, but the only place I can relate it to is Pompeii. Like if you go to Pompeii, it is a town. You can see where the streets are, and you can identify what was once a road and a house, and you can kind of see it. But there's no houses there, and it's exactly the same now in the Palisades. So it's a really like devastating place to go. A horrible place. And I read a book whilst I was there called Firestorm by Jacob Soboroff, who is a reporter but lived in the Palisades. So he wrote this really amazing book, which I really recommend to everyone. It only came out in September, I think, talking about kind of when he was reporting on the fires, but with knowledge of like that was my high school and this is the deli I used to go and stuff. So it's a proper kind of poignant book to have a read of, you know.
It's nice when you can make it personal like that, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, the best part of his story was that he said, I think he'd lived in New York for a few years, and he had only recently moved back over to California, back to where he was from. And then a couple of months later, the fires happened, and he was like, oh, you should put me on this because I can literally go and tell stories about my old elementary school and stuff. So yeah, it's an amazing book. And I read it whilst sat like there on the beach, kind of looking at the Palisades. So yeah, I was there. The purpose of my trip is I'm doing lots of research into the fires in California last year, and we're building lots of work, lots of research into how to prevent it from happening, of course, but it is unpreventable. Wildfires are a seasonal event; they happen regularly. We can almost predict when they're going to happen, and it's about kind of how to rebuild a town so it's more fireproof. And that really, like when I was walking through there a couple of weeks ago, you've got just a street that's demolished completely, and there's houses, and they're starting to be rebuilt in certain areas. The US Army Corps of Engineers were in there for many months doing decontamination of the soil, demolishing what they could. Anything that was an unsafe structure they've removed, and then they've flattened a lot of the land. So you've got plots of land. And it's just a fascinating place. And I'm involved in some of the rebuilding. I'm fortunate to be involved in some of the decisions as to kind of how you rebuild it, about how do you rebuild the infrastructure, and just so many decisions to be made on it. Some people are in there rebuilding now. It is essentially a construction site. When you go in, it is only occupied by vans and skips and lorries and stuff. They're rebuilding out of timber for the most part, because that's just the predominant construction.
That's what everybody in America builds out of. They build out of timber and they put sprinklers in.
Yeah, and it's all on the coast, so it's lightweight construction as well. I was really interested in, as always, in the minutiae. You can walk through and really clearly see where the fire spread. There's trees that are still scorched, and the roads are all cracked from the water damage and the landslides and stuff that happened after. All of that's evident. But I was really interested in some houses survived. So if I lived in that house, could I still live there now? Is there anyone collecting the bins?
Yeah.
Does the milkman still deliver here? Is it a town that is still operational? Is it still living? Because it's a proper community. So amazing stuff to go and see. It's just the most remarkable place you can visit. And I'm back in a couple of weeks to do some field work in the actual canyon where the fire started last year.
Oh, cool.
So called Temescal Canyon. So I was up at the top of Temescal Canyon Road. You've got Palisades High School, and just north of there's the trailhead up to Temescal Canyon. And I'm hoping to be there later this month. No, it's February now. It'll be March. Early March. I'll be back over there. Yeah.
So, two questions.
Go on.
Question number one. Is this an area of earthquakes?
It is. Yeah.
How does that affect? And I'm more thinking of how the earthquakes affect firefighting capabilities. So because if an earthquake happens, it breaks water pipes, it breaks other bits and pieces. How do they factor in earthquakes into firefighting for fires up in the wilderness?
Right, it's a fantastic question, right? One of the things that you find in earthquake zones, and this is really important, is they don't tend to put services underground. So electrical cables, plumbing, any general citywide infrastructure, because of the risk that you get seismic activity. In an area of an earthquake zone, such as Los Angeles or any other place in the world that has earthquakes, you get a big earthquake once a year or however frequently, but you often have low-level seismic activity.
Loads of little ones, yeah.
Yeah. So they tend to not put services underground. Now, that's a huge risk because you've got electrical cables, gas pipes and everything above ground. So your storage is also above ground as well, which is one of the causatory factors for a wildfire. That's one of the reasons that it can happen if an electrical cable gets run over by a lawnmower. You get sparks coming off it and it starts a wildfire. So that's one of the first important points. Secondly, if you've ever watched Selling Sunset on Netflix, which is one of these reality real estate shows where they sell houses in America, and it's all very choreographed and fake, but regardless, you'd see the big fancy houses. There's a big thing in California, especially in Los Angeles, built in the hills, where people intentionally want to lay cables underground because it spoils the view. Because you've got big telegraph cables with wires, and your house becomes more sellable and of greater architectural interest if the services are run underground. And it's a huge bone of contention because you can pay a great sum of money to get a private contractor to come and put it underground, but all the cables and all the pipe work has to be encased in concrete and things, and you just accept the risk that if you get seismic activity, it might crack. And they have pipe work and stuff like that. So it's an amazing question. It's a crazy big issue over there. And one of the big things with rebuilding infrastructure is, what should we do with things like water pipes serving fire hydrants? Should we have them running subterranean where if we get seismic activity, it might crack and flood, but also it'll be protected in the event of a wildfire? Because consider a fire that's 40,000 acres, you've got 100-mile-per-hour Santa Ana winds coming in. It just destroys anything above the ground. So you lose your services, you lose your generators, your electricity supply, your water, everything. So it comes up a lot when you read into this subject where services are, whether they're subterranean or above ground, is one of the massive factors that causes issues.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I may have follow-up questions, but not today. Maybe next week. My second question is there are lots of people doing wildfire research at the moment. I know this because LinkedIn tells me so. Tells me about various different people doing wildfire research, doing bits and pieces. Now, last week we talked about the request out from the IFE and the FIA about sharing information about testing of facades. Do you talk to all the other people that do wildfire research and see if your results are the same? Or do you go, no, this is my research?
Oh my God, that's probably the best question I've ever had we've ever done on this show, right? Because, and there's a very long answer and a very short answer. The short answer is yes. Yes, if you ask, do I share it with people? 100%. It's all open book. That's the purpose of research. If you'd have phrased the question slightly differently, does everyone share it?
Oh, no, everyone. Absolutely. I can imagine everybody doesn't share it now.
But I totally get the reason for that. And I'll explain around that a little bit, because I've worked in a university and I've worked in a private sector research organization. I know there's differences. So research is the creation of new knowledge. It's investigating a problem and trying to create new knowledge and share that with the world. And you share that in journals and you share that at conferences. And that is generally in the spirit of, I learned something. I'm going to share it with the world, and it's for the purpose of betterment, exactly. And that the vast majority of researchers I know have that mindset. I want to research it because it's a big problem. And that's what drives me and my research group here. So I'm head of R&D in my research organization. I have a research group. We do it because we want to solve problems. All of our research is about wildfires because it's a big problem, and building design, etc., etc. But here's the problem with research. It's bloody expensive. It costs an absolute fortune. Really expensive.
Yeah. I mean, how many, even just flying to California for you guys? I mean, it's a great business expense. The taxman loves people that, or the accountant loves that because it's all tax write-off. But
well, okay, so that's actually the point. That's an important one. So even in writing a research paper, let's say we said, right, Jude, let's write a research paper about the wildfires in Los Angeles. Go, right, we need to do a bit of field work. So let's chuck $5 or $6 grand so we can have a trip there, get a hotel and do some work. Okay. We're also out of the business for a week, so that was a cost associated. When we get back, when we work in the lab, the kit we've got there was about 45 grand. We own that. Okay, we need to do some materials. Another week, blah blah blah. You add it up, the paper costs you about 150 grand to write. That, and it's only 2 pages of A4. Really, stick a poster in a conference, it might cost you 100 grand. So, do people share information? They do, but it is also a competitive field because there's somebody ultimately paying for that research. And in most organisations, including universities, you apply for competitive funding. So you go to an organisation who is, the UK Research Institute, for example, they'll put out a thing and they'll say, we need someone to do this research for us and here's a fee, and you bid on it like a commercial piece of work. So what I find is that some people, a lot of people who are doing that, it's written into the contracts. You can't share this because it's a commercial arrangement. We're paying you to do this research.
Okay.
Now, when I set up my business a few years ago, we've done the story so many times, I don't need to tell it. But one of the first decisions I made was that I wanted it to be a research organisation as well. So 10% of all the revenue that I earn commercially goes to R&D. So for every pound we bill to a client, 10p of it's going straight in the R&D pot. And that was really intentional because I wanted my research personally, and the research that my team do, to be non-competitive. Like, we'll publish results before we've even finished the study as we're going through, because we're paying for it ourselves. There's no one telling us what to research. Cool. And the other thing that is really frustrating as a researcher, having worked prior to having my own research group, is you sometimes hit on something and you go, oh, that's tasty, I want to keep researching that. But if the sponsor says, I'm not interested in that, can you go in this direction? You don't have full ownership of the research. Yeah, it's not, as some people think, you kind of go into a lab and think, right, what should we learn today? Oh, cool, let's just discover something till the Nobel Prize Committee rings us up. You've generally got a scope for it, unless some organisations like my own, you've just got money in the pot and you just go, right, let's research whatever we think is valuable. So personally, I have loads of amazing connections in wildfires and I share everything I can. We've got WhatsApp groups, we've got LinkedIn community groups, whatever they're called. I stick some of my results just on LinkedIn and on the website. Not everybody does that. But that's not me saying they're doing it wrong. I totally get why. They've probably got a sponsor that's paying for that. And they keep it closed. And you have a quota as a researcher. You must publish X number of, it's not uncommon to get, you must publish 2 papers a year and present at 1 international conference. And that's your target, to have to do it. So you don't want to give everything away because your job depends on it. So, but the simple answer that, do I share my stuff? Yeah, absolutely. Phone me up. I'll tell you everything we're working on. I mean, I do it on this show most weeks and, check my LinkedIn. I stick it on there all the time.
That is true.
Yeah.
I know. No, thank you for that. So I was just thinking because you're right. And sometimes you're researching to create a new product.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're researching to make the world a safer place.
Yeah.
So it's a real kind of, I'm going to research this to design a new product, and that definitely is going to stay within our reams. But people can still publish the results afterwards. So I suppose, it's
absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I'm currently sat in our hub, because it was the only room that was free in the building. And over on the other side of the room, I mean, not to completely give away, is one of our products that's currently in development. Now, I haven't stuck that on LinkedIn yet. I've shown it on the podcast now. It's over the other side of the room. That's one I'm probably not going to shout about because somebody could build that just as well and just as quickly as I can and knock 50p off the price and win. So there are certain commercial things you do keep a bit of a tighter. You try to control the intellectual property.
But I suppose it's different. It's different when you're designing products to possibly when you're doing research about events, possibly.
Absolutely. If there's something that's safety critical and it can help other people, in my view, that ought to be open source. If it's a product you're looking to get a patent on, commercialize, okay, that's fair game. That ought to stay with you. It's a bit like on a very early episode of this show, we talked about, you taught me this, and it was probably like episode 1 or 2 about Volvo and seatbelts.
Oh, yes. How when they invented the seatbelt, they said, we're not going to patent this. We're going to make it so everybody can have a seat. Every car has a seatbelt because this is such a vital safety issue. We want everybody to put a seatbelt in their car, so we're not going to patent it so everybody gets the same design.
Exactly. I learned that on this show, and it's and I use that in my teaching now. In a lot of my lectures, I mention it about sometimes somebody makes a discovery that is of such a discovery or an invention that's of such public interest. They don't seek to commercialize it. They just throw it out and say, like, this is for the betterment of the world. And the reason I think I was thinking about that was because in that same show, we talked about patenting magic tricks.
Yes.
Remember that? I was saying nobody patents magic tricks
because you can't patent a magic trick because you've got to tell everybody how it works.
They tell everyone how it works and everyone can steal it. And it's a bit of a catch-22. In trying to protect it, you actually give it away. And I was thinking about that earlier because I'm going to see Darren Brown tonight. That's why I can't record this evening. I've got tickets for Blackpool. And I was thinking about that and then the Volvo thing and then all those parts of my brain connected in that last anecdote. And I was like, it's a nice full circle moment.
Oh, nice. Yeah. We're going to go and see Bridget Christie on Friday. So hopefully I'll be well enough by Friday evening to go and see
she's doing.
Comedienne. We like comedy. It's quite fun going to see comedy. So I'm actually literally going to, once we finish recording the podcast, shut my computer down, drive back north, and probably sleep for many, many hours. So apologies to all the people who are waiting for reports. I'm just dying. I've got to say welcome to Josh. Had a new fire risk assessor start on Monday. So Josh has joined the team. So that's very exciting.
Welcome, Josh.
So
does he listen to the podcast or is this part of your team's CPD that's enforced upon them?
No, Josh has been an avid listener and has actually sent questions on in the past. So that's quite nice. So yes, he started working for us. He's not worked in fire risk assessment, but he has worked in fire safety before. So that'll be quite fun. He's out with Sonia. So it's really nice actually because Sonia's been working for me for nearly a year now. So she's doing quite well in the risk assessments. And then Josh has got a bit more fire safety knowledge. So I'm hoping that the two of them working together will actually work really, really well. So so that's fun.
Welcome to the family, Josh.
Welcome to the family, yeah.
Hey, I'm going to shout someone out as well, actually. You just reminded me. Someone else who listens to the show, Matt, who I was chatting to the other day. I was at a conference and we were chatting all day. And then at the end, he went, and I put a submission into your show in episode, and he knew exactly, it was like in episode 27. He remembered the exact show. So we went the whole day, didn't know he was a listener, and he dropped it in the end. So Matt, thanks for listening.
People do that. It really freaks me out because then they're just like, oh yeah, no, blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, but no, thank you. It's always nice. and people watching as well. I've got to shout out Evelyn, who commented on our YouTube podcast episodes, and now she knows what we've got. Well, she knew what I look like because we've been friends for a long time, but she now knows what you look like. So quite fun.
I'm terribly sorry to have disappointed you, Evelyn. Especially this week, because I'll tell you what's happened this week. I was at my desk about half an hour ago eating breakfast. I sent you a picture of my breakfast, Jude.
You did?
We do a Friday breakfast club in my office, and we're on our second Friday breakfast club of the week, and it's only Wednesday. It's been that sort of week. We keep ordering breakfast.
No, very much it's been that kind of week, yes.
Yeah, mega busy. I was sat there and I was like, oh, Jude said I got to do a podcast. Let's jump on it. Let's do it. So I've spent most of this episode picking breakfast out of my teeth, and I'm just like wearing a hoodie. So I apologise to the watchers.
I mean, at least
this was a surprise episode.
Egg and beans down the front.
It's the only reason I put the hoodie on, because my t-shirt underneath is just soiled with my breakfast. So I need a bib. I need a branded bib, I think, for Friday Breakfast Club. Or Wednesday Breakfast Club.
Friday breakfast on a Wednesday. What am I doing next week? I'm kind of in the office a bit next week, and then I'm going to a chemical plant for a couple of days, so that should be quite fun. It's a chemical plant I've been to before, so they were... how were they last time? They weren't great last time, but I think they've got better now. I think they've changed most of the senior staff, including the health and safety professionals, and so that should be quite fun. Yeah. What about you? What are you up to next week?
London Monday. Just opened a new London office. We just moved London office. It's not really an opening. So we moved to a new spot in Liverpool Street, which is lovely. Somewhere Monday.
Brilliant. That's easier for transport, isn't it?
It is. The other office was great, but it was in the arse end of nowhere. So yeah, right up to Liverpool Street Station I am now. So I'm there Monday, and then at my desk for the rest of the week.
Nice.
After this recording, I wish I could tell you I'm being productive. I'm actually going to get a tattoo and then go to see Darren Brown.
So it's another tatther's
bit of a Wednesday off for me today. I feel a bit guilty. I'm glad you've made me do this, because I've produced something today at least. At least I've done something. But otherwise, I've had a fry up, done a podcast, get a tattoo, see Darren Brown, early night. And then rest of the week I'm at my desk.
That sounds like a nice day. I like the sound of that, as opposed to just writing reports.
I know. You've got a break sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody for watching. I think it is probably a little bit shorter than normal, but I literally am absolutely fading, and now I've got to drive for 3 hours, so I'm really looking forward to
rest.
That. It's going to be lots of stops on the way, I feel, and hopefully by the time I speak to you next week, I'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, I feel better, Jude. Go home, rest, plenty of liquids, and just chill out. No stress. Awesome.
Thank you very much for listening then, guys. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.